بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم ألهمنا مراشد أمورنا وأعذنا من شرور أنفسنا. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala brings about the profession A'mal that we know. Every Amal in our Sharia is to teach us. The purpose is to make this man so refined, so good, that we are those that the angels marvel at. It is called Husn Khuluq, the most beautiful character, the most beautiful personality. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to teach Shariat, one of the sentences which he said was so unique was Bu'ithtu, where he would have said, I have been sent to teach you Quran. He said, I have been sent to teach you your deen. I have been sent to teach you how to perform salah, how to give zakat. He said, Bu'ithtu li'utammima makarim al-akhlaq. I have been sent to perfect your character. I have been sent to perfect your character. That how you behave with people around you, how you behave within the house. With regards to the month of Ramadhaan, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, وَهُوَ شَهْرُ الصَّبْرِ. This is the month, he never said of fasting, he said this is the month of patience. وَالصَّبْرُ ثَوَابُهُ الْجَنَّةِ. He said if you can learn how to be patient, paradise is open for you. It is a month where we learn when we are hungry, we hold ourselves. When we are thirsty, we hold. When we are angry, he said if someone interferes with you while you are fasting, don't fight. He said, say to the person, Inni rajulun sa'im, that today I'm fasting. I can't fight. I can't argue. He taught a person learn how to say no even when emotions are high. It is in fasting when a person who likes his food, a person says, when I don't get my food, one man came and he said, me, anger and hunger are two words which are very similar, anger and hunger. So he said, when I'm angry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm angry. He said, forget my wife making food, I am food. He said that. It was a very unique bayan. He said, I am food. So what he tried to say is, if that food is not in the kitchen, I go wild. Like, I am food. Now in Ramadan, you can be food also, there's no food. Now you want, you hungry, emotions are high, now someone interferes with you. That's when the person says, don't mess with me, I'm hungry at the moment. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, this is the time to practice. When emotions are high and he troubles you, say, I am fasting. A person who's addicted to his cigarette in Ramadan, he can't. Where the cigarette is in Ramadan? My one uncle, he would always go for Umrah. Always go for Umrah. So he's saying to us, you know the secret of my Umrah? I smoke. So I wonder now how that takes you for Umrah. He said, you know why? He said, one day one of my workers came and he said, you know boss, in Ramadan, when we saw how you behave without your cigarette, we started making every year so much dua. Allah, Ramazan is going, take him for Umrah. We can't manage you. He said, the secret for my Umrah is the cigarette. Like, no one likes your character. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, now is the time to practice. When emotions are high. If you can learn the sabr, then the sabr now must go out of Ramadan. You have to learn how to be patient in the house and out of the house. And Jannah will be for you outside, there will be a bigger Jannah inside. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam then spoke about character. He said the one closest to Almighty Allah is the one who got the best character. And he said the man who got the best character is he whose character with his wife is the best. He said, and I am the best of all of you. He said, I am the best of all. So in the few minutes that I have in front of you, we will discuss this one point. Not fasting, but learning from fasting how to be patient on taklif. And if you can learn how to be patient on the taklif of your wife, you can be patient with anybody else's taklif also. That person will be known as you are husn khuluq, beautiful character. The man whose character is beautiful is the neighbor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in paradise. Fasting came to teach us how to control. Allah's Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man kadhama ghayzan." Kadhme ghayz. The Arabic language, they have something like the water bottle. If you ever go for Umrah and you go to the museum, you'll see the water skins of the past. It was the animal. It was a baby goat. After they took out the meat of the animal, then the skin of it now, they only have one hole in that skin, which is by the neck, because that's where they cut it. So the rest of it is like a skin bag. It one leg going this way, one leg going that way, you got a tail. But inside everything is taken out. Everything is taken from the neck, no other cut. Now they can fill this with water, and the unique thing of it is in the desert where it is hot, but what's inside the skin bag doesn't get hot. That there keeps its unique coolness. So if they put the water cool, the water will stay cool. But you need to close this part up. And when you have to take out water, you loosen it slightly, you get a small hole, and then they press and water starts coming out. You have to see how this bag looks unique. But in this bag now, the thing to close that hole, that was called qadhm. That you put the string around it and you make it tight. If it is slightly loose, water is going to leak. Because as it is, the bag is like upside down. The bag is hanging with its two legs. So the opening is already facing the ground. Now when you come to it, you make it slightly loose, and then you press and water starts coming out. And then you release the pressure, and again you have to tighten it. This tightening is called qadhm. Me and you, we got our throat here. And the place of anger is here. When someone irritates us, first the heart starts burning. And now it starts coming to the throat. That's why you want to start swearing. The words that come out is interpretation of the anger in the heart. But when it comes here now to the throat, if an individual can learn at that moment how to tighten the knot, this is called qadhme ghayz. Whoever controls his anger, no, whoever holds his anger. This word holds his anger means getting angry is no problem. Showing your anger is the problem. A man gets angry, but he doesn't show his anger. He holds. Certain times Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would hold his anger in such a manner. The Sahabi says we would see his entire face would become red. And we would know the Nabi of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is angry. But in that anger also he would just hold. And they would see he is angry. And immediately the Sahaba would read, we seek Allah's protection from the anger of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they would realize what we're doing is not right. If a man is able to control his anger, man kadhama ghayzan, wa huwa qadirun ala an yunfidhahu, whereas he has the ability to give vent to his anger. The person in front of him is his son. The person in front is his wife. It's a teacher. Now the world is different. In the past, the teachers would hit the lights out of students. The world changed today. Nowadays the teachers are scared of the students. The father is scared of the son. Now the father is telling the teacher, tell my son this, but don't tell him I told you. And the teacher is telling the father, but I'm more scared of him than you also. You don't even know what he does. The world changed completely. But if now there is one person you can show your anger, it's your wife. Now I don't know in England if you all can show, but other places. Here in England the people are scared of their wives also. But in other places where they show anger, they show it to their wife. There the screaming comes out. There the words come out. There if you're living next door and what you hear, what words you hear. He said while he has the ability to give vent to his anger, he holds himself. دعاه الله تعالى على رؤوس الخلائق يوم القيامة on the day of Qiyamah in front of all mankind. Almighty Allah will invite this individual to stand in front of all. حَتَّى يُخَيِّرَهُ مِنَ الْحُورِ الْعِينِ مَا شَاءَ. And from the women of Jannah, the beautiful damsels of Jannah, besides going into Jannah and getting your woman, as an honor to that man in front of everyone, Almighty Allah will say to him, choose the most beautiful woman of Jannah for you. When everyone will look at your choice and they'll say, what an important man this must be. Say, what did he do? He was able to control his anger. This fasting of Ramadan, it has a purpose out of Ramadan. To be able to hold. Greatest place to hold is with the wife. Imam Ghazali rahimullah wrote, many people think when they get married that the purpose of marriage is kafful adha anha. I must make sure no one harms my wife. That's why it's my wife. If a thief is coming in the house, I'll protect her. If someone wants to harm her, I'll protect her. If someone wants to interfere with her, I'll protect her. He said everyone thinks that's the purpose of marriage. He says the other purpose of marriage is ihtimalul adha minha. One is kafful adha, to keep harm away from her. And the second one is for me to be patient on her harm. Ihtimalul adha minha. Kafful adha anha, to keep harm away from her. We're all doing that. He said, no one dare touch my wife. He said, what you said to my wife, you know who I am. He said, Mubarak to you, you're doing well. But then when you go, you said you kept away everyone's harm from your wife. But you the biggest harm you. The amount of taklif you giving her. Ihtimalul adha minha. The second is the difficulty she gives. I have to bear that difficulty. The greatest of men, they bore the difficulties of their wife. And Almighty Allah made them as great as they were. Me and you are small. Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam, a person came to Umar radiallahu an, and he wanted to complain to Umar radiallahu an regarding his wife. Like a lot of people come to the alim and they say, we need one ta'weez. You say, what ta'weez you need? He said, to sort out the wife. Hazrat Shah Hakim Muhammad Akhtar Sahib says, a woman came and said, my husband, we only fight in the house. Give me one ta'weez. So he said, I got one top ta'weez. Through parda he says to this, auntie, I got a top ta'weez for you, but this ta'weez works only that when the husband comes in the house and you know the fight is going to start, you have to put this ta'weez in your mouth. So Hazrat Hakim Sahib says now, I don't know how it happened after that, but what he's saying is that when later on the woman came and she said, mashallah, we hardly ever fight anymore. So he said, obviously, how are they going to fight? He says, because when the husband enters, she's the problem. It's her tongue. But when she puts it there in the side now, even if she wants to say what she wanted, she's stuck. Because it's sitting there, the ta'weez. So she's chup. Now the husband makes salam. Now no problem in life. He says the problem is the tongue of the auntie. All the fights can come if you can give husband and wife ta'weezat. Tell them just keep quiet and no one will fight. But since the ta'weez is not going to go in every auntie's tongue, the husband has to know how to manage. So he comes to Umar radiallahu anh and he says, or he wanted to say that his wife's tongue is a little bit harsh. But when he reaches the house of Umar radiallahu anh, their houses were very, very small. And their walls were not like our walls, soundproof. So if something happens in the house, if you even the close neighbor, you can hear it. So from outside he hears the wife of Umar radiallahu anh speaking to Umar radiallahu anh. And she is also at that moment a little loud. So he says to himself that if he can't sort out his own wife problem, where he's going to help me in mine? And in that day he turns around and he goes away. Umar radiallahu anh gets the message that he came so close, we saw him standing there and he went. So he meets him after a while, he said, you had needed anything? He's feeling shy. He said, no, he said, but you came to my house. He says, I came with this problem, but I heard your wife. After that day, I don't think you can help me out at all. Umar radiallahu anh says, rather we have been taught that because she does so much for us, we also have to do a little for her. The little that we do for her is to overlook when she goes a little loud. He says, as for what she does for me, so Umar radiallahu anh counted. He said, number one, she's my sitar from Jahannam. It is through her my heart finds solace and I don't have to look for haram. So she is my barrier from the fire of Jahannam. And she's doing a good job in that. Whenever I need to fulfill my desire, my wife is ready for me. Number two, he said that she is my khazina in kharajtu. Whenever I am leaving the house, even if there's some wealth left behind in the house, I know I can trust my wife. She's not going to steal my money. So normally where I have to pay somebody else to look after my money, I'm getting the job done for free. She's my khazina. She's looking after my wealth and I really trust her. Up till now, she's never stolen. Umar radiallahu anh is speaking about his wife, remember. You people's wives, I don't know. My one friend I met, before the separation took place, she really swiped his card. She really swiped that card. Later on I asked, where's your wife gone? She said, gone out of the country with the children. I said, how she managed to go? So many tickets. She said she had the card number. She bought the tickets on his card. He never knew that. He said after that he went into his account. He said for the last 2 years she made her account also. She was sending. He never looked at his own accounts. So it depends on who your wife is. But Umar radiallahu anhu's wife, he said, she is not stealing my money. Khazina. Number 3, he said, she is my dhi'ru waladi. She is the guardian of my children. We normally call it a daya. You call it a woman who has to see to your children. You call it a wet nurse. You have to pay this woman. I'm going out to work. I got no wife, she passed away. I need someone, can I put my child in your care? She says, no problem, I charge by the hour. He said, will you give your heart to my children? He said, I'll never give your heart. My heart is for somebody else. But because of your money, I look after them. He says, I don't pay her one bit, but she gives her heart to my children. She is the dhi'run for my children. Number 4, she said, she is my khabbaza tahana. She makes my bread, she cooks my food. Normally I have to go to the shop, say how much it is. This year is delicious, 10 pounds. That day is very nice, 15 pounds. Before they give you, you even in the ending say thank you. But the thank you what? They also give you the bill, isn't it? They said, and swipe your cards. But when your wife brings your meal, think about how many times do you ever say Jazakallah. Because there no card comes with the machine. Here you say thank you and at the same time you're swiping. There it's for free and no thanks go at all. He said, she's the woman making my bread. She is cooking my food. And the 5th thing Umar radiallahu anh said, I forgot the 5th. He mentioned, and she is ghasila li thawbi. She is the woman who washes my clothing and keeps it ready. Here in your country, I don't know whether you're all washing clothing or your wives. But we know in our country, it's the wife that has to see to the clothing. Whatever it is, everyone's wife you will find does so many jobs in the house and there is no bill that comes after it. He says, when she is doing so much, I can do little bit. I overlook her when she speaks a little loud. The Sahabi radiallahu anh said, Wallah, my wife also does so much for me. So if you can overlook her, why can't I overlook? Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anh was sitting. He says, you know, Ibrahim alayhi salatu was salam complained to Almighty Allah that my wife's tongue is a little sharp. He says to Ibrahim alayhi salatu was salam, Almighty Allah said that you must enjoy her how she is, as long as her deen is not spoilt. As long as her deen is not spoilt, enjoy her as he is. Then he narrated what Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam mentioned, Innal mar'ata khuliqat min dila', that a woman's nature, she has been made like the crooked rib. لَن تَسْتَقِيمَ لَكَ عَلَى طَرِيقًا. Their nature is they can never come 100% straight. إِنِ اسْتَمْتَعْتَ بِهَا, if you desire to benefit from your wife, اسْتَمْتَعْتَ بِهَا وَفِيهَا عِوَجٍ. You will have to benefit from her while there is that crooked nature. وَإِنْ ذَهَبْتَ تُقِيمُهَا. And if you say, no, I'm going to put her straight. He said, if you go to put her straight, كَسَرْتَهَا, you will break her. وَكَسْرُهَا طَلَاقُهَا. Breaking her is divorce. The husband was told that you will have to be ready to work with a crooked nature, and the crooked nature can't come straight. When we give lectures before a boy gets married, one thing we ask him, you got license to drive? So normally a boy who's getting married got license. So when we say, when you have license to drive, have you ever driven on a road that's straight? There's no road in the road that's straight, no road in the world. There will always be the time when the heavy curve comes. I say before the heavy curve, you will even see some signs to say steep curve ahead. At that time you press brakes. You drop your speed. You don't shout the road, what's wrong with you? You become a good driver and you take the curve at a slow speed. After the curve is taken, the road will straighten out again. And then you can speed up again. But if that person doesn't drop speed, and he flies over, he can never blame the road. It will be said that you had your license, but you never know how to drive. I said at the moment now when we're making the nikah, we are only giving you license. But you the driver. Your wife, Allah has already announced she has curves. She is created of a crooked nature, mean there will always be a time when she goes in her moods. A woman has hormonal changes which me and you don't have. She falls pregnant, her nature changes. She gives birth, her nature changes. Her menses comes to an end, her nature changes. It starts, her nature changes. She reaches menopause, her nature changes. There are so many times when there are turns in the life of your wife. If you don't know how to press brakes beforehand, if you can't see the signs, you come in the house, you make salam, you get no reply, you must know it's one of those days now. At that time, you don't go press your accelerator and you come in the room and you say, whenever I enter the house, you're always moody. You'll have to press brakes now. If you don't know how to press brakes, sometimes we tell a person, if you're not a good driver, when you see it happening, go 3 days in Jamaat also. When you come back, things will be calm. You have to learn to take the turn at the right time. During those days, she doesn't want to see your mother. During those days, your mother don't want to see her. You will have to learn to keep your wife at a distance. You, the husband, where your job is to keep harm away from her, your job is also to make sure you don't harm her. Ihtimalul adha minha, and if she harms, we and you have to make sabr on that harm. With the sabr, the world will open. In the books of tasawwuf, there is a kitab called Tashawwuf ila Rijal Tasawwuf, an introduction to the men of the past who were the men of Allah. So they write the story of a person, Abu Muhammad Salih, most likely his name. He was the Allama of the era. He narrates that there was the great Sheikh whose name was Abdul Razak Jazwali. So Abdul Razak Jazwali and his wife were having some issues. And it went to the stage where she actually even hit him. This was too much for him, so he leaves the house, and for a while he's now in the Khanqa of Dhunnun Misri rahimullah. While he's the Khanqa of Dhunnun Misri, many people who had ta'alluq with him now, they coming there to the Khanqa. So he says, I go to him also to meet. He's the Sheikh of the time, but he left now, his area is in the Khanqa. Everyone knows there's a problem. He says, but when I come to him, I find him is bleeding. There's an injury on his head, and we can actually see the blood is like fresh, like he just had a fall. So he says to us that, see, sit down. He said, a very amazing thing happened to me last night. As I was getting ready to sleep, this door of the Zawiyah, the Khanqa, opened. A person walked inside. I looked at him and I said, who are you? So he said, I am Musa al-Harawi. So Sheikh Musa Harawi was known in that era. He was a wali of Allah, and he was a person blessed with karamat and kashf. So when he said, I am Musa al-Harawi, he got a shock, like, what are you doing here? Meaning Allah sent me. He said, I am going to speak now, listen to me. He's telling Sheikh Abdul Razak Jazwali. He said, we have heard about a man that set out on a month's journey to visit a sheikh of the era. He had so much of shauq to meet the sheikh. He reaches there, it is night time. So he takes a room which is above the room where the sheikh stays. Because the houses are such, as I told you, walls are not soundproof. If the wife is loud, you can always hear. He says, at night I hear the wife speaking to the sheikh. And she says, khudh at-ta'am, that take your food. Ya mura'i, oh show off. Imagine this now. Say, oh show off, take your food. She said, wallah, if the people of the east and the west knew who you are and how you deceiving them all, you would see other things from them. He said, I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, who knows a man best? The wife. That if this wife is saying he's a show off and he's like taking us for a ride, am I in the right place? So he says, next morning I say, I rather don't meet the sheikh and just carry on back home. And I said, I came 1 month. So finally he says, I came so far, at least one salam. I go and knock on the door. She says, what you want? I say, I came to meet the sheikh. She says, he's out there in the jungle. He's gone to get wood. You want to go find him? Go look for him. So he says, I go out. I'm very sad. I wasted my time 1 month. As I'm coming, he says, I see an amazing scene. I see a wild animal. He calls it Asad. Normally Asad is a lion, but wild animal. I see a wild animal standing in one place and it's dragging something. I look and I see it's dragging wood. It's dragging wood. Then I see that the sheikh is cutting the wood and is putting it in one sack. And this wild animal with its mouth and its claws, it's pulling that sack. And he's walking and then he's cutting and he's dropping another one and it's pulling. And I'm amazed at the scene. And it comes to the end of the jungle and it leaves that sack there. And then the sheikh now is going to pick it up and walk home. As he's going to pick it up and I see that animal walking away in the jungle, I say, this is a sheikh, right? So I come running to him, I kiss his hands and says, wallah, please tell me, who are you? And he gives me the name. And I look. And I look at him and I say, Allah's qasam, what gave you this honor? So he smiles at me and he says, the sabr I make on what you heard last night. The sabr I make on what you heard last night. So this person now, Musa al-Harawi, tells Sheikh Abdul Razak that he says, you are a man that Allah made the people of the east and the west subservient to you. People from far and wide are coming. Everyone has put their heads down in front of you. You have managed to grab the attention of everyone by the kindness of Allah, except one woman. That woman Allah never put in your power. He says, is your shukr to Allah for what He have given you this now? That just because that one at home can't listen to you, you forgot all what Allah gave you and you came away here. He said, go back home and make sabr with her. Sheikh Abdul Razak says, when Sheikh Musa al-Harawi told me that, in shock and so ashamed of how I am behaving with Allah, I fell back. When I fell back, I banged my head. He said, this blood is fresh because I went unconscious. When I woke up, Musa Harawi was gone. I immediately went into sajda crying to Allah. You brought the whole world to me and I can't make sabr on one woman. He took out his clothing. He said, sell this here. It was the clothing of a great sheikh. The fuqara, the poor people of the Hanka grabbed it. They went and sold it. They bought food. Everyone was having da'wah that day. And then the Sheikh Abdul Razak now goes back home. He says, wallah, from today I will never complain of the taklif of my wife. Me and you are enjoying a lot of good times. You might think maybe no lion is pulling your wood. But we're not making the sabr he was making also. The enjoyment of good times. A Sahabi radiallahu anh would sit in the company of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His other brother would go out to work. The brother who would work would come home And the Sahabi who was sitting the whole day in the masjid would come to the house. And then when the time of meal came, this one was benefiting from that one. So the worker now goes to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam to complain. He says, I go out to earn a living and he only sits in your company. But when the time comes for the meal, then he comes. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam definitely later on is going to tell the one that you must also work. Don't be lazy. But at that moment, he's not speaking to that one, he's speaking to the one complaining. What a sentence he says. Brilliant was the words that came from the tongue of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْزَقُونَ وَتُنْصَرُونَ بِدُعَفَائِكُمْ. That perhaps, when a Nabi says perhaps, it means indeed it is. Indeed it is that the help of Allah that comes to you is coming on account of the blessings of the weak one you're looking after. لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْزَقُونَ وَتُنْصَرُونَ بِدُعَفَائِكُمْ. Perhaps because of the weak one you're looking after, you are getting it easy. Meaning you're trying to say he's eating your food, but maybe the food is only coming to you because of him. Me and you in our house, we got a da'ifah, a woman who is weak. Her mind is weaker than the mind of man. Her body is supposed to be weaker than the body of man. When you fight and you argue with her, when you fight and you argue, you even say, you're so weak-minded, you can't understand anything. That's why the argument takes place. It was said to me and you, don't ever think life is going well for us just because I am good. Life is going well because there's somebody else weak in the house. Kick that one out of your life and you might not find enjoyment in your life after that. Where a man always says, I can get someone better, it's not so easy. We have seen people divorce their wives and every door of ease, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala shut it. Hazrat Shah Hakim Muhammad Akhtar Sahib says, when he was still young, a person came to him with a marriage problem. The man was quite old, the woman was quite old. At that age you say, now you're talking of talaq. He says, but the real reason was the man was wealthy. The woman was old. The wealthy man's eyes fell on a younger girl. Now he looking for a reason to marry the younger girl. He starts fighting with his wife. When you use your eyes in the wrong place, you will see all the faults of your own wife. If you close your eyes from the woman of the world, you will only see kamal in your wife. A man who goes home hungry, he will eat whatever the wife made. A man who eats before going home, when he comes home, even if she puts biryani, you'll say, I'm full. She said, you ate somewhere. He said, no, I just had a bite. That slight bite in the shop will make you not like her food. Similarly, that man who looks after his eye, during the day, so many women walk in front. He does not look. When he goes home, his wife will be the most beautiful to him. He's hungry. But a man who looks the whole day at the adorned beauties of the world, dolled up, they got makeup, they're not real. The picture is taken from the side. That lipstick is put on. That woman, if she was so smart, her husband would have stayed with her. But the women of Hollywood and Bollywood, every day they get divorced. If they were so good, their own husband would stay. They got no husband. But the man looks at that picture. When he goes home, he goes full. If you go full, even if you got biryani at home, you will not like what your wife got to offer. The problem is not with the wife, it is with the eyes of the husband. Ramadhaan has come to teach us sabr. Sabr of the eye. Sabr of emotions. If you can learn to control yourself. So Hazrat Hakim Sahib says to the old man, you only got few years to live. But because he was intoxicated in the love of a young doll, he says before leaving the room, he divorces his wife 3 times. He says the woman got so many children and she's so old. He says, I saw her looking at the sky before she went out. Looking at the sky was to say, Allah, even the alim couldn't help me today. It is only you that I now look. He says she went away. He said it wasn't long that they got the news that this man who was so wealthy, he got the girl, he married her. But not long after that he suffered a stroke. Life was going well for him because of the weak one in his house. He took the weak one out, every door started closing. He suffered a stroke. He stays in hospital so long, then he comes home. When he comes home, he needs a nurse. That old woman would have nursed him. She would have changed his napkin. She would have tolerated the dirt. But this young doll, she never get married to clean his toilet. Within a couple of days, she asks for divorce. She takes his wealth and she goes. Hazrat Hakim Sahib says, we used to hear that some students would go to his house now and then just to clean him of the urine that was all over him. They would enter the room with that smell. They would clean that urine, that whole bag of his, meaning that whole napkin would be like soaking. No one in the house. He says, we got the news he passed away in that state also. Dirt all around him. He says, don't ever think life is easy because you're enjoying an easy life. Life is easy because there are weak people around us. Get rid of the weak person and life might not be so easy for the strong after this. Women, I have a nature that has turns. If you are a good driver, you see beforehand that today my wife got a mood. On that day, press brakes. Take it easy. Let the fight not start. Take the turn slowly. Again she will get normal. And then again carry on your journey. So if we can learn this, to be able to be patient on our wives, you will find the doors of Jannah will open. Hazrat Moulana Hakim Akhtar Sahib Rahimullah gave a unique example. He says there's a very wealthy man in a village. Everyone understands that this man got a daughter. But they don't know the nature of the daughter. But the man is very, very wealthy. So one person comes to the man and he says, I'm interested in marrying your daughter. He says to him that don't ever look at me and think my daughter is like me. I have a daughter who is kind and soft-hearted, but she has a few problems. She got a lump. So when she's going to come limping, she's not going to walk like a normal woman. And there's a slight stutter. So the boy says to the father that I knew about your daughter's problems from before. And I'm ready to make sabr on it. When that father gets the boy married, he is not sure still. When the boy sees the girl coming, walking with the limp, he sees her ears a stutter, and from day one he never shows her anger. The father is still not sure, he is very worried. The first time when the girl goes home and she's smiling, a father wants to see his daughter smile. When she's smiling and she says, Daddy, you married me to an angel. If anyone can look after me like how you looked after me, this man is the man you got. He has never abused me. He has never shouted me. This father doesn't even know if this man will remain like that for always. But from that moment, the heart of the father goes out to this boy. The father immediately starts saying, I'm thinking of sending you all for Umrah. He says, you all made Hajj, let me send you for Hajj. He says to the boy that you work, you don't work. You know, in my business, I need a person to be a manager. Don't start at the bottom, you start from the top. The father will open up his doors of kindness onto this boy. And if the boy has to be asked, what is the secret of your success? He said, I made sabr on his daughter. I made sabr on his daughter, and every door opened up for me. Hazrat Hakim Sahib would then say, remember this year, when Allah Tabarak Ta'ala created man and woman, after creating woman, He said, وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. That your Allah, the Creator Himself, is saying that He knows how He created the girl. And He is asking you to treat her nicely. He said that sentence, treat her nicely, is like when the father said to the boy, that my daughter got some faults. Allah said to the individual, the servant, that my bandi, my servant got some faults. He said how that father opens his doors to his son-in-law. If his son-in-law is kind to the daughter, Allah will open upon us His doors if we are kind to the bandi of Allah. He says the most the father can take the child to the Kaaba. He says Allah will take you to Himself. Your doors of wilayat will open if you can learn to be sabir over the taklif in the house. But if a person is not looking for wilayat, you find him reading a lot of nafal, you find him with the tasbih in his hand, but why is he there? He came to ask for a divorce. You will say, if you're looking for wilayat with tasbih, you will find wilayat in sabr over your wife. People are reading nafal and nafal. You ask them what you want out of it. He said the high places of Jannah. He says then be sabir over the taklif of your wife. If we can learn this year in Ramadhaan, as-sabru siyab thawabuhu al-jannah, that with patience every door of paradise will open up. You will see the Kaaba, you will see the house of Allah, you will see Almighty Allah's open kindness just by making sabr on the bandi of Allah. He said when Allah interceded on her behalf, grab the intercession of Allah and say, my Allah asked me to be kind. On that intercession I will now be kind. If me and you can learn in a time where divorce has hit the world in a wild manner, people just get married. I don't know what that boy thinks. A sheikh writes, he says, I had a meeting with one boy. It was a most unique meeting. He enters into the room and it was a very fast meeting. He had something in his hand like a paper. He comes to the sheikh and he says that I got a request. I want to get married. So he says, Mubarak to you, may Allah make it easy. He says, no, you find for me a girl. He says, me? He says, yeah, I'm sure you'll find a girl for me. And I just wrote some of the conditions, what I want in the girl. So the sheikh says, I looked at it. The boy was 37 and he had 26 conditions. 26 conditions. He said, I looked at it and I said, even the Anbiya's wives did not have these things that you are asking. So if you know Quran a little bit, you will know there is in Surah Baqarah an incident of the Bani Israel. That's why it's called Baqarah. The cow, the bull, the cow. So they were told that they must go slaughter an animal, the Bani Israel. So they started asking what kind of animal, because they were stubborn in nature. So Almighty Allah said, you want to ask questions, no problem, I'll give conditions. So Almighty Allah gave conditions for that cow. He said it mustn't be too old, it mustn't be too young, it mustn't be a cow that worked on the field, it mustn't be a cow that did this, it mustn't be of this color, it mustn't be of that color, rather it must be like a bright yellow, safra, faqi'un lawnuha. Condition after condition. Now when they went to go look, where are we going to find a cow like this? Finally the Nabi of Allah said, and Allah said this also, and they were so stubborn in nature. But right at the ending, finally they said that we got one more question to ask regarding the cow. One more. And they added, wa inna insha'Allah, that if Allah wishes, la muhtadun, inshallah we'll find that cow. And it comes, Abdullah bin Abbas says, had they not said insha'Allah, they would have gone looking for that cow till Qiyamah. Because they took Allah's name, Allah made sure they found that cow. But they were stubborn. They asked so many questions, they got so many conditions. So the sheikh said to the boy, your conditions for the girl is like the conditions of Bani Israel for the cow. So the boy laughed and he said, wa inna insha'Allah la muhtadun. That they found the cow with Allah's name, I'll find my cow. So he looked at the boy and he said, you know what you're thinking? The way you behave. He says, looking at this year, it seems you thought that women are like a brand new car being made where they manufacture cars. And you the driver. He said, the driver, no matter how terrible you drive, you go there and you say, I want a car. The tires must be like this. The mats must be like this. The color must be like this. The turn must be like this. He said, there's no manufacturing woman here. A car and a driver can talk. that no matter how terrible the driver is, he'll always blame it on the car. He said, in marriage, my friend, worry about yourself more than you worried about the conditions for her. Then he said to her, to the person, that one condition you need in a girl, it is called deen. If a girl got deen, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Fazfar bidhati deen." Grab a girl who got deen. Taribat yadaka. Your life will be full of blessings. Your life will be full of blessings. Grab a girl who got deen. You're looking for your 26 conditions. Me and you also have a lot of thoughts. If only she could be like this. If only she could talk like this here. Why can't she be sweet like my sister-in-law? That other auntie, she's so kind. She's so kind to you because she's not your wife. Everyone's wife is his. This is not a car and a driver. If you wanted car and driver, you are the driver and it's a road. You will have to take the road with the Benz. Your wife is not a car that's made at BMW and made at Lamborghini. That you go down and you say, I want the conditions. Is there a maintenance plan? I don't want any scratches. Any sounds I'm hearing, I'm bringing it back. It don't work like this. Yeah. This is where Allah Tabarak Ta'ala said, I have made a girl and I made her of a nature that is crooked. And oh man, I want you to be patient with her. How in Ramadhaan when iftar comes, and now we're just waiting, almost we're there. And it says, when iftar comes, I'm going to enjoy Almighty Allah's iftar for the people of this ummah. Those who can be sabir, who can make patience with the crooked nature of their wife, they will make their iftar in Jannah and they will find their wife will be perfect. Day after that day, you'll never ever complain. Your wife will be made as the star. She will be made as the sun of Jannah. Every other hur of Jannah will come around her. They will look at her beauty and they will look down shy. She will be unique in front of all of them. But for you to get that iftar, we'll have to make a little bit rosa today. You're going to find her one day as you want her, without any problems. My Ustad, my Shaykh Hazrat Moulana says, he gave one bayan. He said this exact thing. So there was one uncle there, very jolly uncle. Old uncle, jolly uncle. So when Moulana said, how you want her, you're going to get her one day in Jannah. So after the bayan, he goes to Hazrat Moulana. And he says, I like the whole bayan. But you know, my hearing is not very good. That last part you mentioned, I think I heard wrong. That did you say she's going to be there with me also? So Hazrat Moulana laughed. And she says, yeah, but not like how she is now. Allah will put her right and bring her. He says, my wife, no one can put right. Then he said, Moulana, you telling me that's Jannah. If she comes, it'll become Jahannam. So it's not going to be like that. On that day, even the hur will feel shy on the beauty of your wife. Even the hur. A Sahabiya asked, how can it be? They are made from Jannah. We are made from the sand of this world. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, how will they be able to match the nur of your salah, the nur of your zakat, the nur of your fasting? They don't have that light. You will shine like the stars. You will shine like the sun. They will not have that brilliance. On that day when the hur will also look down, every man will appreciate. It was a few years of sabr. And Allah in this world will open up every door. The closest to Almighty Allah is the one who got the best character. The man whose character is the best is the one whose character is the best to his wife. Our job is not only to keep harm away from her. Our job is to make sure we don't harm her. And we make sabr on the harm she gives to us. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala grant this to all of us in this month of sabr. If we can learn it during the days of Ramadan to hold, to be able to control your anger, the hurs of Jannah will be there in front. You can choose what you want. Your wife will be the greatest of the women of Jannah. Forget Jannah. In this world you will find where the wild animal was pulling the wood for the person. Allah will make the whole world subservient to you. If we are just able to make sabr on the slight crooked nature of our spouses, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala grant us all tawfiq. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم لك الحمد كله ولك الشكر كله. اللهم لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك. رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. Allah, you are most kind. Allah, you are most forgiving. Allah, you are most giving. Allah, in the month of Ramadan, your announcement has been made again and again. هَلْ مِنْ سَائِلٍ فَأَعْطَيْتُ. Who is the one asking so that I can give? Allah, the hand has lifted. Allah, the time of ijabah, the time of acceptance has come. Allah, we are close to breaking our fast. Allah, when the work is done, the boss always wants to pay immediately. Allah, a dua is going to be put up. Allah, we ask you for acceptance. Allah, a dua is going to be put in the air. Allah, we ask you to give us the moment of acceptance. Allah, bless us all with the most beautiful of character. Allah, bless us all with the most beautiful of character. Allah, bless us all with the most beautiful of character. Allah, let our character make us the inheritors of Jannatul Firdaus. Allah, as your Nabi mentioned, nothing will be so heavy on the scales on the day of Qiyamah like good character. Allah, bless us all with the best of character. Allah, bless us all with the best of character. Allah, let us not harm the hearts of people around us. Allah, let us not break the hearts of people around us. Allah, let us be the one that is caring. Let us be the one that is forgiving. Let us be the one that is kind. Let us be the one that is helping. Allah, evil and filthy. Allah, akhlaq radhila. Allah, qualities that are evil, qualities that are terrible, qualities that take a man away from you, qualities that turn your nazar away from an individual. Allah, purify our hearts from those qualities. Allah, purify us from jealousy. Allah, purify us from hatred. Allah, purify us from malice. Allah, purify us from pride. Allah, purify us from ujab. Allah, bless us with character that is beautiful. Allah, bless us with humility. Allah, bless us with khashiyah. Allah, bless us with ma'rifah. Allah, bless us with khushu. Allah, bless us with khudu. Allah, bless us with a mind that is always absorbed in your thoughts. Allah, bless us with a heart that is soft for the people of the world. Allah, protect us from stinginess. Allah, grant us a nature of generosity. Allah, the character of your Nabi. Allah, in this month of giving, Allah, we ask you to bless us all with the character of our Nabi. Allah, we ask you to bless us all with the character of our Nabi. Allah, we ask you to bless us all with the character of our Nabi. Wa sallallahu ala al-Nabi al-Kareem wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Inshallah, Moulana will also give a short speech to Tarawih.